Flashbangs are one of the most important pieces of utility in all FPS games. They can be such a dominant factor when taking a site, defending, getting aggressive, and so many other situations. But so many teams just waste their flashbangs at the beginning of defending rounds to stall enemy pushes. I'm hoping that today's episode will educate you all more about flashbangs and how to use them more properly. Welcome back to another episode of Critical Ops Academy with your host Manthis. Today we are going to be examining the properties of flashbangs, as well as how to use or defend against them. Before we get started, let me know if you prefer that I keep these subtitles on, because I got a few comments in the last episode saying that subtitles would be a good addition to this series. I would also greatly appreciate any feedback that you guys have in the comments, as I read every single comment and try to improve based on what you guys are asking. With that all said, let's get right into this episode. So before we talk about the usage of a flashbang, I wanted to discuss some of its properties. The flashbang costs only $200 in defuse matches, meaning that even if you are on an eco buy, spending that $200 on a flashbang can be really helpful when your opponents have assault rifles. When fully affected by a flashbang, it temporarily blinds you as well as impairs your hearing. This means if your opponent is fully flashed, he won't be able to see or hear anything you do until the flash wears off. It is important to note that flashbangs have a greater effect at short distances, meaning if you are further away, flashbangs won't affect you for as long. If you turn away from a flashbang, it also greatly decreases the amount of time you are flashed for. Now that you know a little about flashbangs, I wanted to get into my first point, turning away from flashes. As you can see, turning away from a flash versus looking directly at it can decrease the amount of time you are flashed for. When you are defending an angle and a flash comes your way, you can do one of three things. Number one, you can turn away as soon as the flash comes and hope that you'll be able to see by the time your opponent peeks you. Number two, you can just keep holding the same angle as the flash comes, and maybe turn away at the last second. This method can be more beneficial because sometimes the attacking players like to swing on the defenders as soon as they throw a flash to get the kill, because most times the defending player will just turn away in fear of the flash and have his back turned to the attacker. Waiting a turn can be beneficial because you are potentially preventing your opponent from getting an easy kill. Number three is to push through the flash. This can normally only happen if you are closer to where your opponent is. If you hear the flashbang coming out, you can try to push through and kill your opponent before you get hit by the flash. Although this method is effective, it's a lot more risky, and most good players watch out for this kind of play when they use a flashbang. Since getting hit by a flash from longer distances is easier to counter, the next point I wanted to cover is pop flashes. Pop flashing is a method where you throw a flashbang and your opponents do not really see the flash coming until the second it pops, meaning they don't really have time to turn around. Keep in mind that using pop flashes is a much more advanced technique that requires some practice, so I'm just warning you that this can be a lot more difficult than it looks. The hardest part about using a pop flash is trying to calculate the angle you want to throw the flash at so that it doesn't get seen by the other team until right before it's about to go off. There are two ways to effectively pop flash. Number one is solo pop flashing. This generally occurs when you bounce the flash off the floor or a wall. Keep in mind that you actually need to be right by where the flash pops if you want to push into it, or else you will be too late and the other team will be ready for you. Bouncing the flash off the floor will allow you to keep up with the flash as it's bouncing. Right before the flash pops, you want to either turn around or try and cover yourself behind some sort of wall so that you aren't affected by the flash. As soon as it pops, you need to get aggressive and push out while your opponents are temporarily flashed. Solo pop flashes are a lot harder to perform, so the next method for pop flashing is more like a duo method, where one guy flashes and the other pushes out. Although this probably requires voice chat communication, there are several reasons as to why teammate pop flashes are more effective. Although solo pop flashes won't really be seen by the opponent until it's too late, they will most likely hear you bounce the flash off an object, meaning they might expect your push. With a duo setup, you can throw the flashbang from much farther away, meaning you don't need to bounce it off the surface, you can just let the flash pop in midair. That's really all I have to say about flashbangs. My final word of advice is that you should not just throw your flashbangs at the beginning of the round all the time. Don't just waste your flashbangs to try and stall pushes, because 9 times out of 10, they don't even do anything, and you just wasted a flash that you could be using in a retake situation. If you did enjoy this episode of Critical Ops Academy, please be sure to like and subscribe, as I am trying to keep this series uploaded weekly. Now that you've seen the tutorial, please let me know if you have any feedback in the comments down below. Thank you so much for the recent support, and I'll see you guys in the next video.